Hi everyone, this is Miss Barb from the Sterling Heights Library, coming to you from my home because the library is still closed. We will be closed for several more weeks. If you keep checking the library's website, it will give up-to-date information on when we will be reopening. I miss you all very much, and I wish I was able to see you in person to do a story time, but since we can't do a story time in person, I am recording a story for you today. This is one of my favorite stories. This is Hamilton Duck's Springtime Story. After today's story, I have two crafts that I'd like to share with you today. We are going to be making a duck out of a paper plate, a Hamilton duck, and we are also going to try and do an edible craft today. The edible craft is making a popcorn tree, kind of like a spring blossoms tree. I will show you how to make both of these crafts after the story. As I said, today's story by Arthur Getz is Hamilton Duck's Springtime Story. Hamilton Duck's Springtime Story by Arthur Getz. Early one morning, Hamilton Duck woke up. He heard a bird singing and singing. "Spring is here! Spring is here! Spring is here!" sang the bird. "I shall go for a walk and enjoy the springtime," said Duck. Hamilton Duck saw his shadow in the sunshine. He smelled the spring flowers and picked a bunch. Then he watched while Mr. and Mrs. Barn Swallow came home from the south. Duck took a long swim in the duck pond. A mother duck was teaching her babies how to swim. Friendly Fish and Hamilton Duck rubbed noses. "Hi," said Friendly Fish. After the swim, Duck decided to take a little nap in the shade. Suddenly he woke up. The wind was blowing. Things were tickling his face. "It's snowing," said Duck. "Winter has come back. I'm in the middle of a snowstorm. I'll get chilly. I'll catch a cold. Oh, how nice the snow smells," thought Duck. "And it is pink. I'm in the middle of a pink snowstorm, which has a nice smell." Suddenly, Hamilton Duck stopped. "Why, this is not snow," he said. "These things are blossoms. I fell asleep under the apple tree." He went back and picked up his bunch of flowers. It wasn't winter after all. Spring had really come. The end. I hope everyone enjoyed the story, Hamilton Duck's Springtime Story. And as promised, I have two different crafts that I'd like to show you how to make today. The first craft is to make a Hamilton Duck. Hamilton Duck is going to look like this, and the parts that we need to make that craft, everyone will need a paper plate. If you don't have a paper plate at home, that's okay. You can use a blank piece of paper, just a big white sheet of paper, put like a lid from a pan on top of it, just something that's a big circle, stick it on top of your sheet of paper, and then cut around it and fold it in half, and that will be your craft, which I need to take my paper plate, fold it in half. First thing I'm going to do is take my paper plate and fold it in half. This is my duck's body. I have a couple of other things I've already cut out. I also cut out a head for my duck. On this, if you, easiest thing to do is from a piece of white paper. I used a big coffee mug that I had, and I put it down on the white sheet of paper, traced around it, and then cut it, so that way I could get a pretty good looking circle. So if you don't have a big mug at home, look around in your cupboards, peanut butter jars, coffee cans. There's all sorts of things that you can find that have got a lot of nice, good circle sizes for you. So I have a circle cut out for his head. I have a handprint that I cut out, shape of my hand. for his tail. And the last two things that I cut out, I've got kind of a rounded rectangle, rectangular shape on the top, and then kind of rounded corners at the bottom. This is going to be his bill. And again, this is from a half sheet, or excuse me, half circle from a sheet of paper. And I didn't have yellow paper handy, so I used white paper, and I just used crayons to color it in. So if you don't have yellow paper, don't worry about it. So what I need to do is take my my half plate, and I'm going to put a little piece of tape on it to hold it together. If you don't have tape, you can use a stapler, you can use a glue stick. It just takes a little bit of time for the glue stick to dry. But I'm going to put just a little piece of tape there. So I've got my paper plate held shut. And first thing I'm going to do is put on his head. Before I put his head on, I actually first want to put on the bill. So Bill's going to go right about in the middle. Find a glue stick. And put some glue onto the circle. And put his bill in the middle. And I need to draw a couple of eyes on. So I'm just going to make 2 circles and then 2 smaller circles on the inside for his eyes. So there is Hamilton Duck's head, and this is his front, this is his back. So on his front end is going to go his head. Take my glue stick, put some glue on the front, and put his head on like so. And of course, on his opposite end are his tail feathers. So his tail will go on like so. Last thing I need to do is attach his feet. And the feet are going to go on the bottom in the back, so it's just that little bit that you see sticking out. So I need to put a little bit of glue on the top. And like so. Hopefully he looks good from the front, because I can't see him. And I think he looks pretty good there. This is the Hamilton Duck paper plate portion of the craft. The next portion of the craft, or the next craft, is to make an edible craft, which the edible craft is making a tree. Oops, unfortunately, I lost one of my popcorns. So making an edible tree, mine needs a little more drying time. This is a craft which is best to use liquid glue instead of using a glue stick. So for the popcorn tree, you can use plain white popcorn if you would like. I decided to use colored popcorn, which I have a recipe for. I'll hold up for you right now. And the recipe for the colored popcorn, it's actually making something like caramel corn, but instead of keeping it the caramely color, kind of like a golden brown color, before it gets to that dark golden brown, I actually took it off the burner and added a little bit of red food coloring to it. The instructions are pretty simple. It's using some sugar, some butter, some light corn syrup. You mix those together, bring those to a boil on the stove, let it boil for a couple of minutes. After it's boiled for a few minutes, you'll take that off of the stove, add a little bit of baking soda and some vanilla, and of course that little bit of food dye. The one that I had was food paste, so I used a toothpick, dipped it into my food paste, and then put it into the mixture, mixed everything up. Took some fresh popcorn, and while the mixture of course was still hot, I poured that over the popcorn. It helps if the popcorn's warm, because that way this caramely portion won't harden quite as quickly. So mix that up with some warm popcorn, put it all onto some sheets of wax paper, broke those pieces apart, and ended up with some popcorn like this. And I didn't get every single piece, but that's okay. You can see that some pieces are a little bit more pink, some pieces not so much pink, but it's just to give the idea, just to give an illusion of the color pink on the popcorn. So if you are using white paper, like I did for this tree, for white paper, I would suggest either using colorful popcorn or coloring in like some blue sky, something behind it so you have contrast. White popcorn on white paper, I'm not sure how well it would show up. If you don't, if you prefer, it might actually be better to use colored paper. In this case, blue paper. I think it will show up really nicely. So what I'm going to do is take a brown crayon and I'm going to trace my hand with brown crayon. Just do a really quick tracing. Trying to do it a little bit fast, so it's going to be a little bit sloppy because you have other things to do today than watch me color in my hand. So I'm just going to do a quick coloring of the tree. So very quick coloring. So this is my tree shape, and take a little bit of green and a green pencil along the bottom to give the illusion of some grass. A little bit easier to color it before putting the popcorn on, but you can also color it in after. So I've got my tree shape, I have got my green grass at the bottom. Because I have blue paper, I suppose that I could use white crayon and try and put in clouds. I'm not going to bother with that right now. What I would like to show you is putting on some glue. Like I said, in this case, I use liquid glue instead of glue stick. Liquid glue, it takes longer to dry, but I think that it adheres a little bit better. So I've got, and the popcorn is delicious. Like I said, it's basically like caramel corn when you do this. So I'm going to take a kernel of popcorn. I've got more pink on one side, so the opposite side that I'm going to be gluing down, I'm actually going to put my glue right on the popcorn and plunk it onto my sheet of paper. So I'll do that with a few pieces, just so you can see what I'm doing. And I do put a generous amount of glue on the kernels, as you can see. It's a generous amount of glue. And then carefully put that on. I'm going to hold these for a few seconds to let the drying process start, because otherwise they'll tip and they will not be in the glue, and when you pick up your piece of paper, your popcorn all falls off and it will not be adhered. So a couple more pieces. So again, being pretty generous with the glue, and I'm going to decorate, and I can put that glue, I can glue my pieces of popcorn all the way up and down the branches of the tree. And when it is finished, this one's still a little bit wet, not completely dry. I've only let it dry for a few hours. So this is what the finished project should look like. You can use either colored paper, like this one, the blue paper. If you are not coloring your kernels, then I would say make sure that you use a colorful piece of paper. If you are coloring them, then you could probably use just regular white paper. It's completely up to you. There's no right or wrong way to do it. So these are the two crafts that I wanted to show to you today. So there is the Hamilton duck craft, and then because of the spring trees in the story, I thought that I would show you how you could make a popcorn tree. Kind of looks like the spring flowers that we see on trees outside. So I hope everyone has a good rest of the afternoon. Hopefully we'll see you soon at the library, and everyone take care of yourselves.